in, The Last Samurai, in which Tom Cruise is called by the Japanese emperor, and he asked him about the last samurai, and he asks him, "Tell me, how did he die?" He had died fighting in battle. They had attacked the Japanese army with the samurai warriors. They had opened up with machine guns and slaughtered them. And yet these guys just charged, just sheer courage. So he said, "Tell me, how did he die?" So he bowed to the emperor and said, "I'd rather tell you how he lived. I'd rather tell you how he lived. What a great deal he achieved." Ladies and gentlemen, we are now not basing it on any sense of emotion. Empirical research, and I emphasize each word, empirical research has been done in the transfer of power archives to look for a documentary trail of evidence to prove how exactly did India get free. Methodology, very simple. We identified the key British decision makers from the year of the Lord about 1945 to 1950. Who were the key decision makers? And very specifically, we focused on the period 45 or 42 actually to 47. And these key dramatis personae were, in England, in London, Lord Clement Attlee, Prime Minister from the year of the Lord 1945 to 1950. He is the man who signed the Independence of India Act, and he becomes the prime decision maker. Number 2, Lord Pethick Lawrence, the Secretary of State for India and Burma, the key decision maker once again in London. In New Delhi, we have Viscount Field Marshal, the Viceroy, Viscount Field Marshal Wavell, and the British Commander-in-Chief of the British Indian Army, Field Marshal Auchinleck. These are the 2 key decision makers in India. Then we had studied what were the writings of the British governors of the various provinces, especially Bengal, the Sir Casey, and the governor of Punjab, governor of Northwest Frontier Province, of Sindh, of Oudh and the United Provinces, etc., etc. All these governors, we have gone through their correspondence with a tooth comb. Right? And then we studied the writings of the Director Intelligence Bureau. I was very happy that we had Mr. Haldar here with us till very recently. He just left, a former Director Intelligence Bureau, and of course Professor Dr. Mukherjee, who's been our ambassador in Nepal last. But we studied the writings of all these three dramatis personae, and the picture that emerges is a clear documentary trail of evidence that proves that the Quit India movement of 1942 had failed dismally. The British had used 57 Gora Paltans. They did not use Indian troops. They could not afford to risk using Indian troops and having a mutiny on their hands in the middle of the war. So they used 57 Gora Paltan, that is British, Australian, New Zealanders, Canadians, to crush the rebellion so-called of the Quit India movement. Every single congressman was jailed, and when Gandhiji went on fast, there came orders from Winston Churchill, who hated his guts. Why is Gandhi not dead? I mean, it was as simple as that. And in the face of this, non-violence just crumbled. Non-violence just crumbled and was finished. They were wiped out from the media, and for any revolutionary movement, for any freedom movement, the oxygen is media coverage. If you are wiped out because of wartime censorship from the radio and the print media, you, sir, are finished. And that was what happened to the Congress. They were finished. When Gandhiji came out, he fell very sick. His wife died. He came out a broken man. And this is the period in which the British cultivated Nehru. Why? Because Nehru had said, if Netaji comes with an army of Japan, I will take a sword and be the first man to fight him. And the British were very happy with this, this slavish mentality, this loyalty, this display of loyalty. And from then you find a complete marginalization of Mahatma Gandhi by the British, and the promotion of Pandit Nehru as their chosen candidate to take charge from them, as their chosen collaborator. There is no other word for it. Their chosen collaborator, right? And ladies and gentlemen, these, when you see the whole scenario, Gandhiji came out. He was so dispirited that when the press approached him after release from jail, he said, look, I have dissolved this thing. I have no further authority to do anything. I will not oppose the wartime effort. I will support the wartime effort. Here, those are his letters from Varda, from others. We have cited, reproduced those letters. We have not cited, we have reproduced those letters. So he was a broken man. His spirit was finished, and the Quit India movement was over. How then do the British leave? The best kept secret of that war was the Indian National Army. That is why Netaji wanted to come in via East Bengal, so that once he contacted the mainland Indian people, the news of the INA would spread. And he had said, the moment the Indians come to know that an Indian National Army has been fighting for them, that is the end of the Raj. Unfortunately, for tactical and strategic reasons, the Japanese ignored this advice because some of these plans had possibly been leaked. Do you know how the Great Famine in Bengal was caused? The British were worried that they would come via what is now Bangladesh, and that they would use the riverine transport. They burnt every bloody single boat in Bengal and caused the Bengal famine. People are telling us, as Abhijit was telling us, that you start accusing Japan of wartime atrocities and war crimes. The number of war crimes committed by the British in India are legion. They have created the famine in Bengal, took 3 to 4 million lives. What is Hitler's genocide? 3.5 million. I'm saying between 3 to 4 million lives. There are estimates which go higher than 4 million. There are estimates which go higher than 4 million. 3.5 million lives also, if you are conservative. It is a massacre on par with the Jewish massacre by the Germans. It's a Holocaust, and that was not the only famine in British India. Please, let's be very clear on that. And now data has come in that the British have looted $45 trillion worth of, money, etc. from India to finance their industrial devolution. These are the people who try and paint Netaji as a war criminal, as a kind of a lackey of the Germans or the Japanese. Right? Now what I want to tell you is that when the trials of the INA personnel were started in the INA, that was the first time the British wanted to do a psychological Jallianwala Bagh. After World War I, we were expecting them to be very, very, generous to us, because we had sent 1.3 million troops, 13 lakh troops had fought for the British. 70,000 had died. 70,000 had died. You see, now we thought they would grant us home rule or dominion status. 2018, the war ended. 2019, what did we get? Jallianwala Bagh. In that province of Punjab, from where the maximum troops had gone, they massacred unarmed civilians. To tell you, this is your place. You expect that you have done something very, very great for us. We will kick you around. You are our bloody slaves. That was what was the lesson. Netaji had learned this lesson. And he had told Mahatma Gandhi that the only time to get freedom is now, during the Second World War. If you miss it, it is now or never. And he was absolutely proved right. We all know Gandhi drove him out. But ladies and gentlemen, surprisingly, history also tells you that towards the end, Bose and Gandhi were on the same page. It was on the insistence of Bose through his radio broadcast that Gandhi launched the Quit India movement. Almost the entire Congress Working Committee, at least 14 out of 16 members, opposed Quit India movement. It is only Gandhi who said it will be done. And for that, the British never forgave him. There is also a thesis that the British intelligence was fully aware of Nathuram Godse or whosoever it was loafing around the Birla Mandir. They let Gandhi be assassinated. You think they couldn't have stopped it? You think they did not know about it? Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. They wanted him out of the way. They got him out of the way. They put in, the pity is that 45, when they held the trials, it was a psychological Jallianwala Bagh, right? To humiliate India, to rub our noses in the sand, and to terrify the British Indian Army into complete submission. And it boomeranged. It backfired so badly that the British were shaken to their core. The moment the trials were held in the Red Fort, and as he has said, gali gali se aayi awaaz, Dhillan, Sehgal, Shah Nawaz. I mean, those names resounded. They were military heroes overnight. And the whole nation got to know that there was an Indian National Army and what it had done for India's freedom. What it had done was that out of 26,000, out of 60,000, 26,000 had been martyred. 26,000 शहीद हो गए साहब, और आप उसे कहते हैं that this was a non-violent struggle. I mean, it is an insult. It is a bloody calculated insult to the parents of those soldiers who have laid down their lives for India. Today you can't get a single stone which bears their name. When they started doing this, riots started in all the main cities of India. The biggest riots were in Kolkata. Crowds in their lakhs came out. And Sir Casey, the governor of Bengal, writes, first time in our history in India, the police have opened fire on a surging crowd. It has just wavered for a few seconds and then started the charge again. It has never happened before. The INA soldiers were coming and the people started giving them public felicitations. And the Intelligence Bureau reported that Indian Army soldiers in uniform were joining these felicitation meetings. The mood was ugly. 25 lakh Indian soldiers were being demobilized after the war. They were well trained. They had beaten the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians. And they knew how to fight. They were the best divisions of the British Indian Army, right? And there were just 40,000, British troops. The mathematics was simple. Auchinleck told Wavell, let us get out with due grace. Let us get out while we still have the power to control events, are the exact words. And even the Viceroy Wavell was an old commander-in-chief of the British Indian Army. Both these generals knew their army very well. And they wrote collectively, the Viceroy wrote to London that let us get out with grace. We have just about 18 months in which to get the hell out of here. This is in writing. And Auchinleck started an evacuation plan. Contingency plans were made to get all British officers and families to the various airfields in India and to the ports, so that the British troops would ring them around, fight a last, fighting withdrawal as these families were flown out. That was the level of panic. When this was sent to London, London said, you are losing your nerve. And to which Wavell angrily shot back. He says, please remove me from this post of the Viceroy if you have no faith in me. But you ignore my advice at your serious peril. These are the words from the Viceroy to London. In London they started thinking, okay, if we don't have British troops, they all want to be demobilized. They are fed up of 6 years of war. They just want to go home. And incidentally, there were mutinies in the Royal Indian Air Force and Royal Air Force when they were not demobilized and sent home. Okay, that is the time the British said, we will try and recruit European mercenaries. These two field marshals laughed. He said, the whole of bloody Europe is devastated. Saab, kahan se laoge mercenary? किधर से लाओगे मर्सिनरी? कहां से रिक्रूट करोगे? कब तक ट्रेन करोगे? कब तक यहां भेजोगे? This is a joke. And they told us, and they told London that by February, initial revolts could start. By May, June, it would be a massive, massive flagration. 18th of February, 1946, the Royal Indian Navy mutinied. The Royal Indian Navy revolted. 79 out of 89 ships. They brought the Union Jack down, brought up the tricolour, threw their British officers into the sea, went round the streets of Mumbai and Karachi shouting Jai Hind, with portraits of Netaji. That was the end of the empire. The next bloody day, Pethick Lawrence flew to India to, begin negotiations on the transfer of power, and the Raj had thrown in the towel. The pity is, sir, it is the INA and Netaji who got them out, but power was given to Nehru. And what is Nehru's first act? He appoints as Governor General Lord Louis Mountbatten, a Britisher. Pakistan also becomes a dominion at the same time. They have the decency to appoint Jinnah as their first Governor General, a Pakistani as their first Governor General. आपको तो अंग्रेजों के बगैर रह ही नहीं सकते हैं। 200 साल उन्होंने आपका शोषण किया और आप कह रहे साहब क्यों जा रहे हो, हम आपको रख रहे, हम अपॉइंट कर रहे। That is the tragic historical joke that has been played on this country. And what is the first order of Lord Louis Mountbatten? The Indian National Army soldiers will not, repeat not, be taken into the Indian Army. They will be denied their wartime pensions. They will be treated as traitors. और साहब उस जंगलाट के हुक्म कल तक लागू थे. Nobody in India can dare change it. Why? Why? Why has that happened? 70 साल 72 साल क्यों नहीं लाया उनको वापस? जनता गवर्नमेंट आया तो इनका पेंशन रिस्टोर हुआ. जनता गवर्नमेंट आया 77 में तो पेंशन रिस्टोर हुआ साहब. दिस इज द लेवल ऑफ सेल आउट. 68 तक तो चंद्र बोस के जो वंशज हैं उनके ऊपर इंटेलिजेंस ब्यूरो रिपोर्ट दे रहा था MI5 लंदन को. अरे साहब राज कौन कर रहा था यहां? ना वर यू फ्री और वर यू नॉट फ्री? लेट्स बी वेरी क्लियर. वो राज को सकअप करने की जरूरत? व्हाट वाज द नीड? What was the need? Because you had placed in charge a set of collaborators, a steel frame of the ICS, which was so pro-British that nothing can change. And even today in the bureaucracy, there is solid resistance, even if the government orders. The government said all the papers concerning Netaji will be declassified. I ask you a simple question. Why then is Gupta's history of the INA in the Ministry of Defense still a secret? It has not even got a classification. Why is it not in the open domain? हमारे दूसरे देश से रिलेशन खराब हो जाएंगे. अरे यार ये बकवास सुनते 70 साल हो गए कि रूस से रिलेशन खराब हो जाएंगे, इंग्लैंड से रिलेशन खराब हो जाएंगे, तो भाड़ में जाए. I ask you, to hell with that. Yeah, we are a sovereign state. We would like to know what happened. Nobody has the business to treat a martyr of ours, a whole set of our martyrs, with such contempt. Can't you find your legs? Can't you find your spine? Can't you stand up? And we are a free nation. Who are you afraid of? Why do you have to still go sucking up to London? And if London becomes outdated, then we want to go to Washington.
Now Beijing.
And now Beijing, if you please, as Abhijit says very rightly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now need to reinvent ourselves. We now need to be psychologically free. You need to be free because you have still got shackles of mental, psychological slavery. And the earlier we cast them, the better it will be for us. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.